Do you know what it takes to maintain a beautiful smile? People say to me, oh, you have very nice teeth. Well, the shape of my teeth are the inheritance of my mom. However, it's a lot of work to maintain them healthy, happy, avoiding cracks. Why did I say that to you? Is because behind this smile, behind this tooth structure, it's especially a full organism with cells, with a brain, with a heart, with thinking, with making decisions. It's like a whole institution inside the tooth. And let's see why. This is fascinating. The main component of our tooth, the first one, is the enamel. This is the first thing that is formed before the whole tooth is formed. Enamel is formed by small crystals of hydroxyapatite, and these crystals start getting together one by one. It's fascinating. I saw the research of Dr. Shane White. If anybody wants to see, that was his PhD dissertation, where he studied how the enamel gets together and the formation of the enamel from the molecular level. And then we are able to see how the cells in spectrophotometry studies, how they get together to create the glue between this enamel that it goes together little by little and get the shape through a genetic information, of course. Once this enamel is complete and is calcified, it's not a tissue, this is not a composition of a tooth that is alive. This is a very strong structure. It's very difficult to break. However, depending what are you doing with the tooth, you cannot be chewing ice, bones, etc., or pencil. So this is a very strong structure, very difficult to replicate. Of course, now we do regeneration on the teeth. However, I was lucky to be with Dr. Harold Slavkin and Dr. Marisay Seigner during my PhD studies, and I was able to understand the molecular pathways because they were able to recreate the formation of the whole crown of a tooth in a Dappen dish and therefore continue with different studies of regeneration. Now, the enamel doesn't feel anything, doesn't feel cold, doesn't feel hot, doesn't feel anything. But what it continues after the enamel is the dentin. Dentin is also has some type of calcification and also is alive. These lines that you see here are like I call it like a freeways, is dentinal tubules that are composing this dentin. This dentin feels, it has feelings. It feels when somebody is doing a trauma to the tooth, it just creates, it shrinks the nerve, and the dentin protect you from all the injuries that we can cause. So dentin is very important. However, if you have a cavity and goes to the dentin is alive, bacteria start traveling immediately very fast to get to the nerve. What is the next area? This is the dental nerve. This is that what we as endodontists work on it. The pulp or nerve, as you guys call it, has a vessel. Look at this, is a blue, and it has an artery is red, and it has a wider line that is the nervous system. All of this is connected from here and goes to the regular innervation of the body. If this is a lower tooth, it will continue to go for the mandible and all this area, and also is connected, of course, remember the trigeminal nerve, the fifth cranial nerve is the one that supplies innervation, the lower one to the lower teeth and the upper, the maxillary. Anyhow, these are the three main components of the tooth. But how do the tooth gets protected against forces of mastication and against many things we do? Or because it has another very brainy tissue, which is the periodontal ligament. And that periodontal ligament is like a rubber band. This rubber band serves as like a cushion. You know, when you're chewing, it's gonna help that this tooth doesn't crash with the nerve. So this ligament that is surrounded for ligament is like it's a connective tissue, And it creates also like freeways that are gonna connect you from the bone, it's attached to the bone, and to the tooth surface. Also, around the root, we have cementoblast, and these little cells that are actually like a bluish purple like this in the microscope are gonna be the ones who are gonna serve like a glue also for the ligament to be together with the tooth. What happens if we have a trauma? The trauma will create a problem in the ligament, and therefore you can have root resorption, which I have many topics that I talk about how to take care of it. How do we avoid this? By being careful what we're eating. But the main structure that covers the tooth is the ligament, and then you have the bones surrounding. Of course, the gum also. What happens if you don't brush your teeth? The gums get inflamed. Therefore, the plaque goes inside between here, creates a calculus, absorbs the calcium of the tooth, and becomes so hard that it continues destroying the bone until this structure is lost, and then the tooth starts moving. So why do we care about it? Because every tooth is so important and can affect your health in general when you don't have a healthy mouth. However, if you only brush, floss, brush your tongue, you can use electric, use water pick, anything you want, but brushing and flossing is non-negotiable, and it's non-negotiable that has to be at night. If you don't want this to happen, that the cavity is gonna create, and it's gonna affect the dentin. Once the bacteria is here, the dentin start telling the nerve, I cannot defend you anymore, you're on your own, and this gets inflammation, creates an infection, and as we talk, you can have septic shock for an infection that you never have a treatment. So be sure you go to your dentist every 6 months, take your x-rays when he's advising, and be sure that you're taking care of your oral hygiene by brushing, flossing, and also brushing your tongue. So now that you know this, you have no excuse to don't take care of your teeth. I hope you like this chapter. If you have any comments, let us know in our social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Thank you very much.